Hey, it's me. It's animated me. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and it's time for another episode of Completed It. Movie reviews, pop culture, celebrity guests, and all that good stuff. Oh, and my good friend over there, Sasha Alari, that's my co-host. Hey, Sach, hit the titles, brother. Yes, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Completed It. This is our Marvelous Monday. That's what I'm going to stick with calling it. Each and every Monday now, we're going to go through the timeline of the MCU. Yes, we are that batshit crazy. We're going to go through them all every single Monday. We're going to sit down and kind of review the movie and then talk bits and bobs about Marvel, etc., etc. But anyway, I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and this show is brought to you by scmtherapy.com. Go and check them out. Really good company. Anyone out there struggling with anxiety, stress, etc., etc., go and check scmtherapy.com out. We thank them so much for their sponsorship. As you can see in the top left, as I look at it, we are joined by, he's becoming he's like part of the family now. He's part of the furniture. Mr. Jonathan Noakes. Johnny, how are you, mate?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this little
Good.
series that we're doing. I'm flying. We'll get into it, but I'm already two movies out. I think I'm a movie ahead of you guys. And at the bottom there, you can see his chrome dome shining brightly through the curtains. Mr. Sasha Alari. Sash, how are you, bro?
Yeah, not bad, mate. All good.
All good. Happy, marvelous Monday. I'm going to keep saying that till it sticks. I don't know if it will. Anyway, boys, we're here to talk where it all really started. Iron Man was the first MCU movie to kick it all off way back on May the 2nd, 2008. The first question, and when doing it's quite interesting when you do like the research and stuff for these episodes. You watch a few things that have gone around YouTube, and the big question that we're floating around, Sash, I'll come to you first. Why do you think they started with Iron Man?
There's one of the few IPs they actually owned outright. You
Mm,
know, that's what it comes down to. I guess they waited well before the iteration that we know got made. Paramount was sitting on it for years
they
because
were.
Tom Cruise actually bought the rights to potentially play Iron Man
Dude,
once.
that's later on in my notes. You've
And
kind of
it's
like
it
jumped
was
ahead like 20 minutes in the show.
sorry, man. I know
You
the
know what
history in
I
it.
mean?
You
Come on,
came to me
bro.
and you got the
I
history in
know,
it.
I know.
So Tom Cruise, he picked Mission Impossible, and you know,
Nicolas
he,
Cage as well. Nicolas Cage was really
I think
close
that
to.
was before Cruise, because
Yeah,
Cruise
him and Cruz
owned,
and Cage were the two that were really close to getting it
yeah, no,
before
no, but
RDJ
Cruise actually owned the
and
rights
the rights. Yeah.
because he has a production company. That's why he keeps doing these mission films. So he was the thing was obviously you have a limited amount of time on how long you can make the film, etc. And when Cruise had the rights, the superhero bubble had just begun in
Hmm.
the early 2000s, the first wave of movies coming out, Spider-Man, X-Men. And, you know, back in our day, we had to wait like forever for one of these things. So, the way, these things go, you get horrors coming out left and right, then it dies down, then you get this. Cruise was going to wait for the superhero thing to die down so then Iron Man could come out and, surprise everyone. But because he took so long, it expired, completely
Mm.
expired. So, and then Marvel got it back, and Marvel were like, right, we've just got our four main guys, and they're all part of the Avengers. Let's
Hmm.
fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and you don't know how
that's
lucky we were
yeah,
back in like obviously we're going to get to it next Monday, but in obviously May 2008 you had Iron Man, and in June we had the Incredible Hulk. So it was like a really back-to-back movies. Obviously this movie obviously had a budget of 140 million. It grossed 585 million worldwide with a domestic box office of 318.6 million. John, why do you think they started with Iron Man? Is a lot of people, if you watch it in the actual order of not cinema release, which Sash wouldn't let me do, you would start with Captain America, and then it leads into Miss Marvel, and then it would be Iron Man. Why do you think they picked RDJ and to start with Iron Man, mate?
Robert Downey Jr. I've got no idea why they cast him. I didn't know the history about.
leading up to this film, what you just mentioned about Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage, I think it just made sense. Timing was right. The money was there. They waited too long for Tom Cruise, and they just wanted to shift it to the next available actor, and it paid off. Yeah.
Was that it? Oh, great. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week. Yeah.
I just,
But no, this movie, honestly, I thought it was when you rewatch it. Obviously, we're going back to all the original Marvel stuff. I like the way that the we're calling it original Marvel. Like it's Marvel, but it was more, John, we were saying before we started recording, it seemed to be more gritty and less comedic back then. Don't get me wrong, the Iron Man movie in 2008, it had its comedy moments and it was good in parts, but some of the Marvel stuff you get now. Sash, I know we're going to get onto it probably in about a month's time when we get to it. Thor Ragnarok, I thought was Laurel and Hardy, and I know you absolutely loved it. That's really going to split opinion because I thought it was terrible. You loved it, but hey, it's movies. I thought that was more Marvel trying to be pure funny for the whole movie, and I didn't like it. When you scale it back to 2008 and the original Iron Man, I thought it was really good. After being held captured, obviously in an Afghan cave, he builds the quote unquote original Iron Man suit. He escapes with the help of was it Genson? Was it the guy? Yeah, Genson. Obviously, don't realize what a big part he played in it. Obviously, sacrificing himself to be with his family had already died. He wanted to be with them, but bought Tony Stark more time to get out of the cave, and it was really good how that done to introduce you to that character that probably a lot of us knew if you read the comics or you understood what they were doing. Do you think that they kicked this movie off right, Sash?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, they really knocked it out of the park. I mean, look, getting back to the casting of RDJ, that was lightning in a bottle that only
Mm,
John Favreau knew about because Marvel didn't want him. Because
no.
you got to understand, RDJ was washed up. He'd been a drug addict. He was like always in jail for something, and he was kind of blacklisted around that time. The most famous thing he did around that time was probably being a regular on Ally McBeal. So then, you know, John Favreau, he's friends with him, and obviously he knew he could. The version of Iron Man he had in his head was kind of like the character from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but richer, you know. So he just, he really got RDJ to like sort himself out and like let's go kind of thing because everything was against RDJ.
Mm,
Like Paramount didn't want him. Marvel, it was too much of a risk for them, but they did the audition and he killed it. He literally killed it, And if you hear the behind the scenes stuff, he was like literally like, what I mean? He was working hard to nail it. You know what I mean? And like for John Favreau, he knew he had his guy. You know,
mm.
John Favreau also an interesting pick because he's coming off. I can't even pronounce his film, but Sephora or whatever. It was like
Jumanji,
Jumanji
that
but in
was.
space or something.
Yeah.
I've never seen the movie, but the main reason why it's an interesting pick is because that was very effects heavy, if you know what I mean. So obviously he dabbled with visual effects. And if you look at like his previous stuff he did before, like Made with Vince Vaughn, which he also stars in, and a lot of people don't know this, he co-directed Swingers because he wrote Swingers, So those were the building blocks for his directional directorial debut
Mm.
for what landed Iron Man, you hear him talk in Comic-Con in 2007. That's when I knew that they got the right guy because he's
Mm.
talking about film like how I talk film. And one of the things he mentioned, he was talking about Stan Winston, because when you look at that first Iron Man, it's very practical rather than CG over the top.
100%.
Heavy.
I was going to
And
get
they
to that.
used, and they use,
100% agree with
he
that.
used, the buzzwords for me as a film fan. He was like, yeah, we got Stan Winston, the actual Stan Winston that did Terminator and stuff to build the Iron Man suit and stuff. And I was like, oh shit, there's an actual physical Iron Man suit.
Done Jurassic Park as well, didn't he,
Yeah,
Stan
yeah,
Winston?
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park. He did all of them, man. He
Hmm.
did Predator. He did everything, man. So they got Stan Winston for the physical stuff. They had ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, for the visual effects. And I'm like, okay, this guy knows his shit quite clearly. I just thought he was an actor. I didn't really know that he directed until, I heard he was directing Iron Man. And then
Yeah.
um,
How young
the
did he look
key
in that film?
words, the key words that made
Good
me love
Favreau.
John
Well young.
Favreau was the same thing where he turned around and he was talking about, I want to have the aesthetic of the original Star Wars, where everything looks beat up and like,
Mm,
like battle damaged and that kind of thing. And you get that from this movie because it's dark, it's grittier, and like back to the original Star Wars, the plan with Favreau, had he had stayed, he wanted to do the Mandarin properly, but build him up like the Emperor. You know what I
mm,
mean? First
yeah.
one, you hear his name. Second one, you get a glimpse. Third one, you go toe to toe with the guy, but we didn't get that version, so because he
Yeah.
left. But
This movie
yeah,
felt so much different as well to the current MCU because we know all the characters now and everything that comes out now it's very developed where you're watching early Marvel. I've recently just got done watching The Incredible Hulk, which we're going to talk about next week, next Monday. Obviously, we're doing it in the order of release. And when you're watching it, you're like, it's so scaled back and like you're getting a lot of the origin stories and you're getting like the fresh and whereas now it's very much oh shit, I've got to remember maybe what happened in Iron Man. I've got to remember the Incredible Hulk or what happened in that movie, in this movie, or that TV series. Back then, it was so much simpler. John, did you feel that when you rewatched this movie? I know you watched it today.
Yeah,
Did you feel that it was so much different to what we're used to now with Marvel?
I prefer actually Iron Man now. The way it was, sorry, the way it was filmed back in 2008. I prefer the grittier, more story type of it instead of the comedic stuff.
Mm.
I just felt it was more like of a darker comic version, which I really liked. Because I mean, I like all the comedic stuff, but
What do you think? Why do you think Marvel went away from that in an aspect? I'm not saying they've completely gone away from it, but why do you think when we mention Ragnarok and we mention look, we're going to get to all these movies at a later date, but there were some where you're thinking, well, this is more comedy or love story. Don't get me on Thor, Love and Thunder. Don't ever get me. That was like watching the Titanic. Why do you think they went down that route? Because when you do watch this, you're like, it was like what, and this is going to sound really weird. It was like watching a comic, if that makes sense. I don't get that feeling sometimes now with the MCU where they're not true to what the comic genre was. They are and they aren't. This for me was scaled back. I was chatting to Neil Sach by text today because we are trying to get him on some of the late shows, and he was like, "I loved early Marvel,
yeah,
absolutely loved it." For me, John, this just felt more more comic-fied. Does that make sense?
yeah, they just cut the comic stuff out and just got down with it. It's like Die Hard or something like that.
I
Mm.
I think this was very true to the original comic, though.
Oh yeah, it was true to that's what I'm saying. It felt like I was like I said, I was trying to explain
Yeah,
it. I felt like I was watching a comic.
yeah,
Whereas nowadays I watch some Marvel stuff and don't get me wrong, look, I love Marvel. I'm still a DC guy, don't worry. But
yeah.
I love watching all the stuff Marvel do. I just think now sometimes they get away from the tradition. Does that make sense?
I think it's just
Yeah,
having dirty money.
yeah, they've definitely moved away from what they originally did and stuff. The comedy, biggest difference is that I think before the comedy worked because it was genuinely funny, and they weren't looking to. They had better writers. You know what I
And the bit
mean?
that RDJ would had with all the machinery that it
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
when they were spraying him, he's like, if you hose me down after this, and that worked. It was
yeah,
funny. Whereas now it's just like joke, 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 joke. You're like,
yeah,
hang on a minute. When you see Thor having like a 20-minute joke with the Incredible Hulk, you're like, this dude's a fucking killing machine, and you're standing there, oh, it's a friend from work. I get all that, and I like it, but I don't know. I just when you're watching these, like I said, I've done Iron Man and Incredible Hulk so far. I'm going to do
yeah.
Iron Man 2 tonight. You just think, oh man, this to me, I get what Neil's saying. When Neil says he loves the original Marvel, I don't know what you boys think, but I really do. I prefer this.
Well, when you say that, I think the first 23 films.
Hmm.
I just think it went pear-shaped
Post
post
Endgame.
Endgame
Yeah.
myself. You know,
Mm.
but yeah.
I know you lot talked about Hulk later, and I'm not going to be a part of it because I haven't watched it. But why couldn't the Hulk, the Ed Norton Hulk, and further on be like the Hulk TV show? It was grounded. I don't literally mean grounded. I mean, I didn't like the Hulk like jumping 50 feet up in the air and all that crap. Why couldn't it just be like a grounded character?
Well, that's the comics because the only reason why he
Mm.
didn't jump in the air back then is because they didn't have the visual effects. You know.
Are you not including the Eric Banner version in this, or are you just doing the Ed Norton
No,
No,
one?
we're starting. So we're doing this in cinema release. We are going to mention it, but
Yeah.
we're doing it. So far, we're obviously doing Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
the order. We're doing it in cinema order release because Sash won't let me do it in the watching. If you
That's
start,
the real way, man. Come
he,
on.
he, he, he pulled rank on me. But yeah, no, look, I get it. Did you guys really? I enjoyed the backstory that they told in Iron Man. It was really good, obviously, from Tony Stark being this rich, snob, obnoxious prick to then suddenly realizing, shit, we're making weapons to kill people, and this then and the flip. The switch to flip kind of thing. What did you guys make of like the backstory that they told in this? Again, we don't really get it anymore because we don't need to.
Well, I didn't really read the Iron Man comics. I just read like the Avengers stuff. But in the comics, compared to what he's like in the first film, was he like a playboy flaunting his money, thinking, "Look, girls, I've got all these weapons and that," and all of a sudden this shit happens, and then he's like, "Shit, I've got to fucking sort myself out and do good with what I've got."
Yes and no. I mean, Sash, did you read much of the Iron Man comics?
Not particularly, but you've kind of got it in a nutshell by what
Yeah.
I've heard, you know? Um, yeah, I mean, he is kind of a playboy character. Uh,
Mm.
but I'm just trying to think, you know what? I can't really remember that far back because now when I think of Iron Man, I think RDJ. But obviously, you got to understand, a lot of that was him himself putting that on that character. Then,
Yeah, they say
like now,
when you
it's
do the
so hard to
research for
think
this
of
movie
anyone
as
else,
well,
you
when
know?
you do the research for this movie, they said there's so many lines in there. And when you watch it, so I watched it and then I went back and picked clips after looking at IMDb. There's certain scenes where you can see Gwyneth Paltrow literally laugh because
Yeah.
RDJ had ad-libbed something in. Like the I am Iron Man bit at the end was never in the script. Never. Not once did they write that. RDJ just put it in and they were like,
They ad-libbed it and went
ad
with
libbed
it.
it, and they went with
Yeah.
it, and that's how the movie ended. Obviously, before the post credit scene, that's how the movie ended. So it was really good. I mean, what did you guys think of Jeff Bridges' character playing the like? He wanted obviously got his own kind of suit in this movie. I thought it was a really good start to what we now know as the MCU.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
fantastic. He was a made-up character, by the way.
Yeah,
But like the
never in the
character,
yeah.
well, the character himself was in the comics, you know,
Mm.
the Stains guy. But him getting the suit and all
Was
of that
never
kind of
yeah.
stuff, that was for the movie. But
Mm.
you know what? For a plot and everything, it worked well, and it was a very good first film. Because the thing is with Iron Man villains, they get a bit fantastical. You know what I mean? And obviously, for the first MCU film, they didn't want to go there yet. They wanted to ease everyone in, which is why the earlier ones are more grounded because if you got to deal with magic and Thor and then get to Guardians, because Guardians is where they really took the next level leap, you know what I mean?
I
In
can't
terms
wait
of
to
the
get to that.
movies.
Can't wait to
But
get to
they,
that.
like, they had to ground it for people that aren't into comics, you know what I mean? To
Hmm.
get into the world, you know what I mean?
Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
One big talking point as well from this, boys. Obviously, Terrence Howard plays Rhodey in this movie, and this was his own standalone movie with Marvel. It was reported everywhere that you looked that they wanted him to come back for Iron Man 2, but due to pay disputes and he wanted RDJ money and the studios were like, look, we're not giving you that, etc., etc. Do you think that John, I'll come to you, mate. Do you think that they made a mistake not getting Terrence Howard back? Because we know eventually like, what happened, but I've read a couple of interviews with him researching for obviously for this episode, and like it was all basically it all come down to money. It was he wanted a little bit more money. The studio like, well, look, we're not giving you that. I thought I'd have been interesting to see where they would have gone with him playing the character.
I don't think the future films would have been the same as they are now. Because was it Don Cheadle took over the role, wasn't it?
Yep,
Yeah.
Um,
he was in Iron Man too.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, as I was saying about this Iron Man compared to later films, I preferred it this grittier version as it started off, and I've liked to see what it would have been if Terrence Howard would have been in it. I mean, if they knew they were going to make this kind of money, then they could have offered him the money.
Yeah, it seems back then it was like they just signed Sash, you're no more than me. You're way more intelligent when it comes to this with me. Like he might have just signed a one movie deal. Nowadays you kind of get them signing up for like if I'm doing a movie, I'm signing a two movie deal contract. Or even back then in 2008, really that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but the way that movie deals were constructed is way different to now, right?
So, Terrence Howard was coming straight off Hustle and Flow, where he won the Oscar, and that basically spelt out how much he got paid. He was the highest paid actor on Iron Man 1, more than RDJ.
Hmm.
Because RDJ was on peanuts, like literal peanuts, because he was a liability, you
Yeah.
know? And it was like, well, we're not going to spend like millions on this guy, you know what I mean? Um, and to, and on top of that, the other thing was that there are multiple rumors. So I'm just judging by what's out there already. I wasn't there, I don't know. But obviously, he's got an opinion. They was fleeced out of money by RDJ because they wanted to. Because RDJ, obviously, he did the first film on Peanuts. Obviously, next film they got to pay him more. His wife is also his agent.
Hmm.
So, she proper went at it to get him a decent pay grade kind of thing. And then on top of that, but this is the main thing that isn't really reported as much. Um, because he was a big name on set, because Terrence Howard was at the time, he was also the person. If you look at the outtakes, he has the most outtakes and the
Hmm.
most amount of footage that was cut from the movie. And that's because he pissed off John Favreau.
Wow. Okay.
He actually, he'd do stuff
So he
that
didn't do himself any
didn't want.
favors about coming back for
Yeah,
Iron Man 2
that,
anyway.
that but that's allegedly
Hmm.
what happened from that. But I noticed that story is getting less and less. I've only seen a few outlets post it out now.
Gotcha.
They're always going on the pay dispute thing. And yeah, sure, I reckon there was a pay dispute thing for sure. But it
Yeah,
wouldn't
it says that,
surprise
and all the
me.
reports you read, he was like, he wanted, because obviously,
Yeah,
RDJ for Iron Man 2, his pay went up
yeah.
significantly from, like you just said, Sash, he was a
I
liability from
do
the first
think
movie.
I do think I do think Terrence Howard, you know, I do think Terrence Howard gave the better performance
Hmm.
for Rhodey because I did like him.
I really liked it.
I like their chemistry.
Yeah,
Don Cheadle was fine. He was fine, but it took me about 3 movies to get used to him. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
And
He's
by
the same in every film he's been in, really.
yeah,
Don Cheadle. It just gives
Mm.
us the same comedic performance. But it is what it is, I suppose. And
except for Ocean's 11 when he pretended to be British and Cockney.
Put on the worst British accent ever. Yeah. Oh my God. We'll get to Ocean's 11 one day. Actually, we need to chat about that. Anyway, one thing, Sash, you won't really be able to chime in on this because you didn't fucking watch Agents of Shield. John, we get our first look at Agent Coulson in this movie.
yeah,
Do you think back then that they kind of knew, like John Favreau, and as we're moving forward, do you think they knew what a pivotal part the Shield would play in the MCU as it's going? Because initially, so everything that, again, believe it or not, we don't just hit record. I do a little bit of research about this. Clark Gregg, his character was meant to be unnamed, and they were just going to put in the agency purely just as the agency in this one movie, in the Iron Man movie. They were going to put it in, and then they weren't sure what they were going to do with it. He had a much larger part in Iron Man than they originally thought he would as Agent Coulson. Do you think that as we're moving forward now, and we know the Shield to be the Shield and the great TV series, which by the way, Sash hasn't watched, I can't believe that.
I've not seen
Um,
it in a long time, but
yeah, but
I've got.
if you haven't seen Agents of Shield, go and watch it. It's fucking incredible. I can't believe Sash hasn't. Honestly, he's the hand in his friendship card here. But did you think that the Shield would play such a pivotal role in the movies moving forward because they it's linked in so well? We're going to get into it in our Hulk when we get to the Incredible Hulk. The end of the Incredible Hulk movie, if you think about it, is linked to Iron Man 2 because that battle that Hulk is having at the end at the university is in the news on Iron Man 2. See, I know what I'm actually talking about sometimes. But John, did you think that the Shield would play such a pivotal role as we move forward in the MCU universe?
Now, I didn't know what they were expecting to happen with the Shield once they sorted out who Coulson is and who represented. And then I just think it all kicked off with what happened at the end of Iron Man, with
Mm.
Fury as well, because wasn't he like him and Coulson were together, weren't they? Like the running Shield and everything like that.
Yeah, so it comes at obviously so
Should we
the
say
end.
spoiler alert? I mean, I know it's from come out in 2008, but
Oh God, yeah, we can do spoilers, mate. I think if you're watching this and you haven't seen Iron Man, what the fuck have you been
there
doing with
probably
your
are
life?
some people out there.
Well, Sash hasn't seen Agents of Shield, so
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just like, and you're Sash, you're
he's
muted,
muted
bro.
his
He's
microphone.
muted. Sash, you're muted. You muted your mic.
I watched
You,
the first couple of episodes, but
yeah,
it just
come on.
wasn't for me, you know.
Ah, dude, it's one. Let's get to the end credit scene. Obviously, Nick Fury. This is the first sign. Again, here we go. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and he basically this is where they first introduce the Avengers, and then wanting to put a team together. And as Tony Stark's like, "Fuck you on about," and that's pretty much how it goes off the. Sasha, you mentioned to me when we done our episode last week, it's the kind of first introduction to post-credit scenes. It's something that we're all used to now. I mean, we mentioned last week that Sinners are doing it. Marvel still do it, apart from Endgame, where they didn't do anything, and it was just the noise of Tony Stark making the original Iron Man suit in the cave. What did you think of then? You know, was that in your mind? Was that like shit? We're really onto something here, and this is going to be setting up. But we
Well,
didn't. Alas, we didn't think we
well,
might be sitting
okay.
here in
So
2025 talking about
I gotta set the scene, man, because I remember when I saw Iron Man for the first time.
it. Mm.
So I used to work in the cinema. Used to work in the cinema, and I think this was around the time when I wasn't working in cinema. But my buddy Ken, he was a manager at Acton View Cinema,
Shout out to Ken.
London. Ken from Ken Talks Film, and every Thursday night, man would text me going, "Yo, staff preview, we've got this on. Come down." So I'll come down to Acton at like about midnight because that's when they put the movies on when all the customers are gone. Staff's there, they'll have the staff show. So I'll come in as a guest. We watch Iron Man. And Ken always hooks up all of his boys in it, all of his buddies. So like me, my mate Chris, everyone, we get there watching the movie, and then credits roll. Obviously, whole screen left, left. Now you're in the park. We're in the car park, and some of my friends are smoking, and we're just chilling. And it's about 3 in the morning or half 2, whenever the fuck it was. Projectionist comes out, and the reason why we got to be last is because Ken's the manager in it, so
Hmm.
he has to lock up
Lock up.
when
Yeah.
the last person's gone. So we're just waiting around the car park, and then projectionist comes out, who's like, "Hey,
Get your ass back in there.
there's a bit at the end. There's a bit at the end, you all missed it." It's like,
Where's he from?
what the fuck? Doesn't matter. I just remember there was an accent,
Okay.
so we were just like, what was at the end? He goes, "Oh, Lawrence Fishburne comes at the end, man, and says something, and he's wearing an eye patch and looks out." And I'm just like, we were all like, "Oh my god, fucking Nick Fury's in there."
Hmm.
Lawrence Fishburne, and then because I read my comics, I was a bit disappointed. I was like, "Oh
Samuel L.
man,"
Jackson.
because if you know the comics,
Hmm.
like in the Ultimate, because Nick Fury was white in the original comics.
See, they should have got the original actor of Nick Fury to be back. You know who that was?
Oh, David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, that's it.
But
Don't
no,
ever test this boy with movie
but
knowledge, John.
he was,
All right, okay.
yeah,
He knows everything. Yeah.
yeah, he was white in the original comics, but they did a reboot, well, different timeline for Spider-Man and X-Men called Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, and they ended up doing it for Avengers and stuff.
Hmm.
And when they did their different version of Nick Fury, they based it on Samuel Jackson as Shaft. So the comic book nerd in me
What a movie,
was
buddy.
like, why Lawrence Fishburne? Why could we get Samuel L. Jackson? So then Ken was like, you know what? Just because of that, I'm going to put it on tomorrow night because the movie's not out till Friday. So he's like, I'm going to put it on the next night. We'll watch the end credit scene. We'll watch it again. Still just as good. We're waiting. Oh my God, thank God it was Samuel L. Jackson. Because in another universe, it was Lawrence
Yeah.
Fishburne. I believe God was like testing me, man.
Yeah. It obviously back then was that kind of like, did that leave you thinking, shit, we're gonna get an Avengers movie and it's
Yeah,
gonna
it
be
did. It
fucking
really did.
incredible.
It really did.
Yeah, it was. Oh, mate, I honestly, I think it was the perfect start to what we now know as the MCU. Just, do you boys think it was the right way to start it? If Sash, we always mention this, and if I was booking it, would you have done anything differently to kick off what we now know as the MCU universe?
See, no, not for that time.
Mm,
Not for that time. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. If Marvel did have all their characters and they were starting the MCU from scratch, the first person out the gate would have been Spider-Man.
Not Captain America.
No, would have been Spider-Man, would have been Fantastic Four, and it would have been X-Men. Why? Spider-Man and X-Men are their two biggest brands, which is why when they sold stuff to go get made, what were the first two stuff that was sold? It was Spider-Man and X-Men for 20,
Mm.
for Fox and Sony, and those were the first set of films that we got. The other was it in terms of Fantastic Four, they're Marvel's first family. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like before Spider-Man and X-Men, Marvel were known for Fantastic Four first and foremost in the 60s. So that's quite a big brand for them. So
Did they
it's
get it right in the aspect of not doing Captain America, Miss Marvel, and then Iron Man? 'Cause that's the if you look at the I've got it on my screen actually now, the
oh,
MCU movie timeline.
yeah, yeah.
That's the way you'll have to watch it. Did they get it right by doing Iron Man and then kind of like releasing the origin, like the Captain America, the first one, except we know the
Oh
origin
yeah, yeah.
story. They done that
I
right?
think they got it right. I think they got it right. If you're talking about what I would when you say what I would have done differently, are you talking about Iron Man as Iron Man the movie, or are you talking about the
Would
film?
you have started the MCU differently to what we know as now? So they
If
started it
there
with
was
Iron Man and then we're
no
off to the races and we're
Yeah,
still
if
doing it in
there was no
2025.
Spider-Man, if there was no Spider-Man movies and there was
Because
no
I
X,
would have done it with Captain America.
nah, I would have done Spider-Man.
Okay. John, what about you?
But that's if there was no
Got you. Yeah.
other
I agree.
incarnation.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I like it the way it is, but I know
Yeah.
there's like film rights and issues. Marvel's selling to Fox and that. But do you reckon the timeline would have been different if Marvel had the X-Men and they put it
Originally.
in? Yeah, originally.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it would. Yeah,
Would
it
have
would
been
have
much
definitely
different.
been different.
Would have
Much
been
See, we
different.
should
much different. Yeah,
we
John,
should
did you get an email today just quickly for the Odeon has shown all the X-Men movies starting when you're back from holiday?
Yeah, I
What?
mean, I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch X-Men 2 United, X-Men Last Stand, and probably Logan.
Yeah, they're all on the cinema starting soon. I think this month they're showing Odeon are showing all the. Anyway, we digress. But yeah, I think they've done it right. Sitting there watching Iron Man again for the first time over the weekend, for the first time in a long time over the weekend. Should have said, I was like, man,
His quality
kind
is
of
better than it
yeah.
was before.
Honestly, when you rewatch it and you're thinking, and we're going to get into it in our Hulk review, which is going to come out next Monday. I thought that was way better than I remember. I was putting our group chat, Sash. I was like 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it, and that movie got
I remember.
shit
I
on. We're going to
remember
get into
walking
it
out.
obviously
I
next
remember
Do
Monday.
you think it
walking
was
out
up there with
thinking it
Endgame?
was a. I think it
What,
was
the Iron Man or Incredible Hulk?
both of
I'm
them. I love, but like,
Iron Man was up
oh,
there with Endgame, yeah, 100%. Iron Man is it's when we get eventually when us three or whoever's doing this when we get to the end of this and we're ranking we'll probably do like our top three or top four out of this whole MCU.
Iron Man's in my top five for
Iron
sure.
Man's got to be.
I've already got my top three.
Oh, not yet. Not yet. That's the end of the summer probably by the time we get there. But boys, it's been good to sit down, chat and chat the MCU. So each and every Monday now, John, I know you're jetting off on your holiday, so you're not going to be with us for a week or two. We are going to do them in movie release order. So next Monday, myself and Sash are going to be
I
back.
love it how he says that, and it's like he's in pain.
Honestly, I didn't want to do it. Hurts
I
me.
ain't doing Iron Man 3. You can do that.
I don't know why you don't like Iron Man, Fred. I didn't mind it.
In, oh, hello, my name's Trevor. Hello.
We'll
Fuck's
make
sake.
sure he's not on the Iron Man 3 one, Sash. We'll get someone else. So yeah, next week we're doing the Incredible Hulk. That is me and Sash doing that next week. The 2000 again, that was 13th of June that come out 2008. That was obviously the Edward Norton Hulk. So me and Sash will be back doing that next week, and then we will be doing Iron Man 2 the week after, and so forth and so on. If you want to keep up with the list, just go onto Disney Plus app and you can see all the movies in order. But we're going to be doing them. John, have a great holiday, my man.
I'll be in work tomorrow morning anyway.
Yeah, but people watching this don't know that you'll be in. They don't give a shit that you're going to be
Well,
in
we
work
banter
tomorrow.
about work anyway, so.
Yeah, they don't give a crap that you're going to be in work tomorrow. I don't care that you're going to be in work tomorrow, and I fucking work with you. So
Wow.
I don't give a shit.
Okay.
I'm only joking, mate. But have a great holiday, mate. We'll see you back on
Yeah.
the channel here in a couple of weeks. Sash, you and I are going to be back later the week. This week, we're gonna sit down next week. We've got our Incredible Hulk review. We're going to get the Accountant 2 review out soon. We've got some other guests lined up that I'm working on that we'll be able to announce soon. But everyone that wants to check out our show, just go into YouTube, type in Completed It Podcast in the little search bar, the little logo that's behind Mr. Noakes there, the top left of our screen. You'll see that. Just click like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Audio stuff is out as well. The audio versions are out. So if you've got Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to audio podcasts, you can find us. But boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. And Sash, let's do it all again next week. We'll talk the Incredible Hulk, my man. Johnny, take care, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Completed It. I've been your host, Andy, but I really should just record this bit. I've been your host, Andy Burrows. Big shout out to our sponsors as well, scmtherapy.com. Thanks very much. Till next time, everybody, we've completed it.
Feeling overwhelmed by the challenges of daily life? Struggling with anxiety, stress, depression, phobias, fears, or just trying to get yourself back again? Discover the transformative power of focused solution hypnotherapy and counseling. Through guided hypnotherapy, relaxation trance allows your subconscious mind to access your inner resources and strengths you didn't know you had. Book your free consultation today and let's start your journey together. For more information, please email Sharon at scm-therapy.me